It's important for us to assess in which space and in which community do I need to show up as an owner, and in which space, in which community can I show up as an employee and it still serve well. Because I don't want you to think that, one is necessarily better or worse than the other. The problem becomes when we join in these communities and we present ourselves as someone who can take ownership of a process, as someone who can be responsible for a thing, and then you get that responsibility and things fall through the cracks. Hey y'all, and welcome to Let's Talk Sis. I'm Shekinah, your host, and as we spend time together, I can promise you 3 things. I'll be honest, I'll make you laugh, and I won't hold back. Let's Talk Sis is your essential girl talk destination where you'll hear about life from the perspective of a Black woman in America, as our stories often go untold. I can assure you, while honest, we are a community for growth and love. Remember to like, subscribe, and share the podcast. Now sit back, relax, and let's talk, sis. Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to another episode of the Let's Talk Sis podcast. Okay, shout out to your girl, and shout out to y'all for the consistency, for showing up, for coming back again, and coming back again. I love you. All right. This is a safe space for Black women who are deeply emotional, have not felt seen, heard, or valued. We have room for you here, okay? I am Shekinah, your host, and this is absolutely one of my favorite places to be, so welcome. Okay, this is a community, so I do want to hear from you. If you guys have questions, comments, concerns, timeline topics, let's talk topics that you want to discuss, we can do that, okay? So send me an email over at the Let's Talk Sis pod@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you, okay? Now, Let's Talk Sis is a brand that is focused and consistent in promoting authenticity in conversation. This way people can heal, grow, and be inspired. So if you love what we are doing here for our audience, you can support Let's Talk Sis. All right. To make it easy, there are quite a few ways that you can support the podcast. Okay. The first way is engagement. Like the episodes, subscribe, and comment. If you don't know what to say, just leave me some purple hearts or sparkles. Those are always welcome. But your engagement really helps me to perform better on the algorithm, and that helps me to grow. Okay. And speaking of growth, you can also support the podcast by sharing the episodes and sharing the community with people that you know. We are building this thing together brick by brick. So that means I need your help in finding the right people. All right. So make sure that they know how to connect with us. And last but not least, you can support us on a monetary level in joining the Patreon. Okay. There are free options, which does give you some exclusive access, but you really want to go down and get you that $5 membership, okay? That gets you exclusive events, exclusive podcast episodes, access to exclusive high-level network and universe-building conversations, as well as the opportunity to contribute to a community. If you want to be someone who contributes to the growth of a community from the ground up, the LTS Sisterhood is absolutely a place where you can start, okay? And become inspired to building your own, all right? So for just $5 a month, you can join us. Visit patreon.com/the LTS Sisterhood. Okay. So just know whatever way you decide to contribute, it is all appreciated, okay? And I thank you for all that you do. With that being said, y'all know how we kick this thing off. It is time for our timeline topic, okay? Well, I was scrolling on my timeline and I heard this conversation from the New Age CEO. I'll play it and then I'll explain it.
Oh, I forgave you. I just don't want you near me anymore. People confuse forgiveness with reconciliation. They think because you let it go that you should let them back in. Let me be clear about something. Forgiveness is, for me, access that has to be earned. And just because I released the anger doesn't mean I forgot what you showed me. Forgiving you doesn't delete the data. It just means that I'm no longer angry or holding on about what the data actually revealed. I can forgive you and still not trust you. I can wish you well and still not want you in my space. I can pray for you and still keep the door locked. Those things aren't contradictions, they're wisdom. The people who get upset when you forgive but don't restore access didn't want your forgiveness. They wanted their position back. They wanted to skip the part about accountability and go straight back to proximity. But proximity without change is just a second opportunity to do the same thing. I'm not angry. I'm not bitter. I'm not holding a grudge. I just rather protect my peace than perform a reunion that I don't even feel. Forgiveness, it doesn't come with a key. You can be forgiven and still not be welcome. I'm not even being cold. That's just clarity.
Boom, flat out. That's just how I go. Okay. So I wanted to talk about this because I think this is something we all kind of should take heed to. I think we're guilty of being on both sides of the coin, on the side of we want forgiveness and we want people to give us back access, give us back our spot, right? But we haven't fully taken accountability. We just said, oh yeah, I'm sorry. I ain't mean it. Right? And then we're wondering why they don't call us no more. We're wondering why they're not inviting us anymore. Well, because we haven't fully atoned for what was done. And they may have actually forgiven you, but you just don't get that access anymore. And then also for us on the other side of things, when we're saying, I forgive them, but they're telling me I gotta have a relationship with this person still. They're telling me in order to have true forgiveness, I gotta be able to be cool with them again. No, boo. That's not actually how it works. That's actually not how it works. Forgiveness can exist with no relationship. I can forgive you, and we can also not be in relationship together. So don't think that just because you've forgiven somebody, you have to now work on developing a relationship with them. If that's what you want, if that's what comes to you, if that's what makes sense, okay, cool. Move forward with the forgiveness that you've now given them. But know that you can also forgive and forget. You can delete them from your existence, your inner circle. They don't have to coexist. So I just wanted to kind of uplift that, give somebody some permission on that. Comments say, I don't feel angry. I don't feel anything, not angry. I just don't want you near me anymore. Oh, snap, child. Forgiveness does not mean I fool with you at all. Change behavior is the best apology. Now, my mama used to say that. And here's what I'm going to say to that. No. Change behavior needs to be in addition to the apology. An apology is an apology. Change behavior is change behavior. An apology is an acknowledgement of what the hell you done did wrong. Okay, we need to talk this. I need to hear you to make sure you and I are on the same page as to your motives and intentions behind this change behavior. Because a motherfucker will like to just change and not own it up to or admit to the wrong, the hurt, the things they did, and expect you to just move on and accept their change behavior. As if I'm not constantly looking around the corner to make sure you actually changed your behavior. That's all I'm saying. But anyway, like the comment said, I want both of them. Okay? Baby, comment said, baby, I cancel subscriptions quick. Okay? And do. Amanda Steele said the other day, I want a life free from abuse. If you are abusive, you will not be in my life. Plain and simple. I mean, it's really very simple. It's really very simple. So when we're having these dynamics with people, and we are in this mode of, do we accept their apology? Have they changed? Are they better? Are they different? I don't know that you even have to answer those questions, right? I think once you get to a place where you say you can forgive them, you can decide if you're going to open yourself up to see those things, but you also have the choice to decide to never communicate with them again. and that's your right. So, okay, before I read that, it says, I can deal with both, but actions speak louder than words because people say one thing and do another in my experience. And I think you're not wrong. I like this comment says, I'm team both. I kind of need to hear it and see it because I appreciate motivations, right? Are you changing your behavior because you know what you did hurt me? Or are you changing your behavior because I don't speak to you after you do what you do and you want me to speak to you? You don't care that you hurt me, actually. You just want now access. So now because before, when you didn't take your shoes off at the door, I put you on ice. You just take your shoes off at the door so I talk to you. But you don't care if you actually are endangering my health. So you're going to do some other dirty, nasty, foul shit in another way, right? So I think that's why, for me, I like to hear it from your mouth, hear you say, hey, I understand that your immune system is very susceptible to germs, and you need me to be very conscious of the ways in which I'm keeping this space clean and free. So therefore, I'm going to be very intentional about making sure I take my shoes off and cleaning up after myself and Lysoling off the counters and making sure Clorox wipes are stocked because I know that's what you need, right? So now I know your changed actions are as a result of understanding the impact that they're making on me. Not, I'm going to take my shoes off because I want you to talk to me. I want you to think I want to be on your good side. I want to placate to the things that you say you need. So that's me. That's all. Let's move on to our Let's Talk topic. But before we do that, let's hear a word from our episode sponsors. Thank you for our sponsors. Thank you guys so much for sponsoring the episode. If you support them, you support me, you support us to be great. Okay. So it is time for our Let's Talk topic of the week. Okay. Now this segment is designed for us to go deeper and have the tough conversations and hopefully find some tools that we need, child. Okay. So this week is kind of fun because we're getting a little extra timeline topic, if you will, because I want to share a moment from our podcast, Business, Brands, and Boundaries. It premieres every Thursday at 5 p.m. It is a small portion of our Thursday co-working session where Kimberlyn and I have a discussion around business, brands, and boundaries and what that looks like, how to show up in each arena in a way that honors ourselves. And so on this conversation, we are talking about an owner versus an employee mindset. And I just thought it would be fun, a crossover opportunity for us to talk about it a little more here. But before I do, let me share this.
Another ownership mindset that Shekinah mentioned was that intentional communication and ensuring that you are communicating with people. What that might look like as an employee mindset is now it might be reactive communication. So you respond when you are asked. If they don't ask, you don't say nothing. You don't flag problems or gaps or updates proactively. It's just kind of very much after the moment. Oh, my bad. Oh, yeah, this been a break over there, and been knowing that it's about to break for forever. But instead of saying something, it's just like, that ain't my problem. An ownership mindset is reflective and, pausing and asking questions and things, whereas an employee mindset is that you are defensive. Feedback is an attack and is criticism, is deflected, is minimized, is forgotten, as opposed to really internalizing that.
Okay, so that was just a short clip. If you couldn't hear, basically, Kimberlyn was breaking down the difference between how an owner and an employee might think about certain things, right? An employee thinks they don't take ownership of things. If something's about to break, if something's going wrong, if something is missing, right, they think it's somebody else's job to fix it. If something doesn't work, it's somebody else's responsibility to point it out. Whereas an owner, they're going to say something, they're going to see something and say something, they are going to move with an intention to care for this project, this company, this thing, this process, to go well, right? They aren't leaving things simply up to chance. They are taking responsibility for the different outcomes. And I just kind of wanted us to talk about this today because I think, again, if you're anything like me, which I'm sure you are, you're watching this podcast, we are in places in our lives where we're wanting to grow. We're rebranding ourselves. We're trying new things. We are venturing into new communities and new spaces. And so I think it's important for us to assess in which space and in which community do I need to show up as an owner, and in which space, in which community can I show up as an employee and it still serve well. Because I don't want you to think that, one is necessarily better or worse than the other. The problem becomes when we join in these communities and we present ourselves as someone who can take ownership of a process, as someone who can be responsible for a thing, and then you get that responsibility and things fall through the cracks, right? You're constantly having to be reminded of, you're constantly having to be followed up on, you're constantly having to, be treated like an employee. And sometimes that is because some of us don't automatically realize, oh shoot, I need to take ownership of this thing. Sometimes we really think, hey, I'm just a part of the process, right? I'm just a cog in the wheel. It is not my thing. It is not my place to step up. And that's a misunderstanding that needs to be addressed between the leaders in that space and yourself. But when we are expected to show up and take ownership, when we are expected to show up and contribute to community and we don't, that's when dreams, ideas, projects, groups fail. Because I'm expecting you to pull your weight. I'm expecting you to have an ownership mindset around this project, around this business, around this collaboration, and you putting it all on me. I'm the only one coming up with goals. I'm the only one analyzing metrics. I'm the only one correcting processes. I'm the only one considering ways to improve. And that's just not fair. That doesn't feel good when we are trying to bring this thing together, right? And so when you are just on the job, though, it's absolutely expected that, hey, that ain't my job. Y'all don't pay me enough for that. I'm not doing that, right? That's not in my job description, and that is fair too. It's okay to know when and how to ebb and flow, and it protects our energy. Because if you down to them other people's job and you're trying to save it, right? And you're trying to do the make things better, and you're constantly reporting on things that can be improved and spending your time writing up reports, and it's been made clear to you that they don't care to improve, baby, you're wasting your time. You have that ownership mindset, and that's fine and dandy, but it's not being appreciated in that space. And so it's our job to kind of be aware of that, to know, oh, I'm doing too much over here. Let me take that and apply it to my own thing, or whatever, however it might be, right? So it says, and it puts a burden on others that causes resentment. Yep, if it's yours, you need to own it completely, from ideation to completion. Yes, and let me tell you, as a network executive, I have no problem with canceling your project. Exactly that, right? So it's also like, as creatives, we want these opportunities, right? We want these chances. We want these collaborations in these platforms, and then we get them and we don't take ownership of it. We think it's somebody else's job to make it pop. We think it's somebody else's job to make it successful. We think it's somebody else's job to tell us what to do. We're not taking initiative to figure out the next thing, to ask a question, to be curious, to whatever. You may not know the $1 million idea, but initiative looks like, well, let me ask somebody who does. Let me research a question I have. Let me figure out the next small step I can do. Right? It says, because resentment can create hostile and toxic work environments. Exactly that. Quickly creates hostile and toxic work environments. Yeah. So, I think our work in this is to, just have awareness, know when one is appropriate versus another. Recognize when it's time to hit that gear shift, and when maybe even in your own projects and even in your own work, are you behaving like an employee when you probably would serve better acting like an owner, right? You probably would see results if you owned the process a little bit more, if you stopped waiting for something to happen to you, for you, around you, right? If you took control of what was going on. So, if you want to hear more on the conversation, you probably hear it a lot better, head on over to Business Brands and Boundaries on the Let's Talk Sis podcast, the Let's Talk Sis YouTube channel. We gonna work on that audio, but you can always catch us loud and clear live Thursdays at 12 p.m. Eastern on TikTok. You can follow me at Let's Talk.Sis podcast, and you can also follow Kimberlyn at Kimberlyn J on TikTok, so you can catch us when we go live and be a part of that conversation as well. It's a good time. We bring our projects, we bring editing, content, laundry, hair, whatever you need to work on, and we have a 2-hour dedicated block every Thursday that we are working together, utilizing body doubling and accountability to get ish done. So we would love to have you there, and you can join us at the end for that conversation. Okay, so before we go on up out of here, I have to leave y'all with our conversation challenge. And the conversation challenge for this week is to ask yourself, are you acting like an employee or an owner? And follow up with, is that appropriate for this community? Right? Because sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. We got to shift, change, and do what we got to do. So, are you acting like an employee or an owner? And is it appropriate for this community? All right? If you want to find more Let's Talk Sis, it's not hard, baby. We are everywhere. We're taking over the world. We're worldwide. Okay? You can find us on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all the things, okay? And you can also listen to us wherever you find your podcast audios, Apple, Google, Spotify, all the things, okay? Please be sure to connect with us down to all the spaces. And if you have not already, please subscribe to the channel, okay? We would love to connect with you. And until next time, see y'all.